Hi, this is Ed Keay-Smith from the Business Marketing Show, and thanks for tuning in. Bit of a historical podcast this time. We've actually got video and audio being recorded for the first time. Thought we'd get in with the 21st century of what people are doing with video. And I thought for this episode, there's no one better that I would like to have on than my very good friend, Steve Wells from stevewells.com.au. Because Steve is a bit of a proficient Zoom user, which is what we're recording this specific episode on. So I thought I'll get Steve on. We'll talk about what he does in his business, and we'll talk a bit about Zoom as well. And it'll be a great episode to launch us into doing this type of podcast and video. So welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming on the first Zoom recording.
Thanks, Ed. An absolute privilege to be with you, mate.
Now, because I'm new to this, I'm going to be looking, and my camera's up here, you're over here, so I'll just be looking somewhere generally around there. I'm sure people who've done videos for the first time have had this scenario. My microphone's doing its job; it just has to stand there and pick up the sound. So now I want to go into a bit of history about how I know you and what is it that you do for a business. So I'll tell my story, and you can correct me and tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you will. So Steve and I have known each other for would be roughly 15, 16 years now. And I met Steve through my wife, Lois, because Lois at the time was going to something called National Speakers Australia, which is a professional speakers organisation, which Steve was a part of back then with Lois. And at the time I had a computer supply business. And I think Lois mentioned that you may need some help with computers or needed a new computer. So I popped in to see you at your house, and you became a client of mine supplying computers and other bits and pieces, which we had lots of laughs at and frustrations at the same time. And then it led from there, and we became good friends, and now we hang out and have curries and go for Indian and all sorts of things. So
I never met anyone who gave me such good customer service as you, so that was just the very first experience.
Thank you.
Honestly, above and beyond. So
well, thank you.
Great impression from the beginning. Even though we met in a business context, it was like, wow, this guy actually, comes out, does things personally, can relate, all that stuff. It's great.
Yeah, often it's said it's a bit of a rare combination when someone has computer or technical skills and human skills. Sorry, all the techies out there, because it is often they're opposing. I don't claim to be a super techie person, but in terms of communicating that, it seems to be good. So thank you for that compliment. So, Steve, we're going to talk about what you do now. Now you have your background is psychology. You've got a degree in.
I have got I've got a master's degree in psychology. I have before that I had an applied science degree in psychology, majoring in psychology, and I tell people I trained in psychology, but I assure you I have fully recovered.
You fully recovered, yes. I've heard you say that before. So, yeah. So your background is working in that area and actually helping people overcome anxieties, fears, performance issues with work or professional sports players. You've worked in a lot of different areas, and one of the things that you've used and a tool that has now become a core part of what you do is something called tapping, working on the body's meridian energy system. It's also referred to as EFT, called emotional freedom techniques. And then you've got your own type of system that you've made up yourself called SET, which stands for Simple Energy Techniques. Is that correct? Got that right?
Yes.
So
with my good friend, Dr. David Lake.
Yes.
Yep.
So a lot of people may have heard of tapping or EFT in some way, shape or form, but I thought, well, here's an opportunity for you to explain what that is, because I know I use it and have been using it for 10 plus years, and I use it in all sorts of scenarios where I have anxiety or stress or just feeling overwhelmed, and I find it helps just settle me down very quickly, particularly like now. when I'm doing recordings of videos,
First
and
time.
people go, why is he tapping his spot there?
Always the first time. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's a great thing because it's normal to have anxiety or a bit of nerves doing something the first time. There's a bit of a, fear of the unknown, not sure what to do, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's a great technique for that.
Yeah. So in your words, can you please explain what EFT, SET, tapping, what is it all about? Is it, something that's been around for a long time? And I'll leave it to you.
Well, it's been around a lot longer than a lot of people would think. I was doing a presentation to a group of chartered accountants yesterday, and I taught them this. And I'm like, there's been now 103 published peer-reviewed studies and papers on this tapping technique, but most of the people in the room have never heard of it. And so It's still surprising to me that it's been around for quite a few years now. I've been using it for 21 years.
Wow,
and,
that's a while.
Yeah. And, it'd been around for about 20 years before that, and yet still a lot of people haven't heard of it. And, if you told me 22 years ago I'd be having people tap on acupressure points on their body like this, as a way of dealing with anxiety and stress and that, I would have said, you're crazy, what's this wacko, mumbo, jumbo, whatever. But I got introduced to it by a friend who was actually in the National Speakers Association that I was in at the time, Michael Tunnicliffe, who's a clinical psychologist.
Oh, yeah, Michael. Yeah, no, Michael.
Yeah. And he'd been over to the US and he came back with these videotapes. That's how long ago it was, videotapes. And he said, it's really interesting stuff and, it seems to work pretty well. So I looked at these videotapes and I'm like, wow, I could see the results. I see you've got your dog in the background.
Yeah, I just noticed Zoe. She's going, what's going on? I've used some tapping on her, believe it or not. But anyway, sorry.
I do group coaching on Zoom, and I have a couple of people like up in the US and one up in the UK who they always have their dog come in and sit on them and stuff like that. So I kind of get used to it. But yeah, so what I found with tapping is I tell people I've been doing this since I was 17 years old. I had a life-changing experience when I was 17. If I hadn't chanced upon a book called Think and Grow Rich, read that book and applied what was in it, I don't know where I would be. I'd be down the toilet, but it changed my life. And so I got inspired to do more of that stuff, and I started becoming a consumer of personal development and, got interested.
Just look on the bookshelf.
Well, that's one, actually. When we came to this office, I had to get rid of 300 books because we didn't have enough bookcases. But now I've got one here, I've got one over there, I've got one out in the other office, so and they're all full. They're all overflowing like this, So I've had a passion for this for just most of my life. And in all that time of studying all those things, reading all those books and studying to master's degree level in psychology and so on, there's only been a couple of things that actually work at home. And this is one of them. So tapping has worked for me. It works for my wife. It's worked for our kids. I've shared it with my extended family, my in-laws, outlaws, clients, friends like you name it. And most people can get a result with it. It really does work for most people and for most issues, Obviously, the more you go towards, it's never going to cure someone's schizophrenia, but schizophrenics can even use it to calm down their stresses, stresses and anxieties and worries too. It's fantastic for anxiety, and it's really great for blocks to performance, which is what I use it for. So most of my work is working on performance, helping people to be able to achieve their goals and to get over whatever's blocking them.
Yeah.
I've used it with athletes to help them get out of a slump into their best performance, and achieve at their peak. I've used it with corporate people, corporate leaders, and I've used it with a lot of regular people and, shared it with a lot of clients and friends.
Yeah, I can vouch for it for sure. As I said, I use it not as much as I should. I'm focusing on using it more. I'm actually partway through your book, which is behind your ear on the bookshelf there. The 100% yes.
Strategically placed, yeah.
Yeah, you can go and you can grab it and pull it forward and show us for if you like. We'll have a look at it in a sec.
Okay.
Oh, look, there we go. Look.
Yeah. You see my rear end.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, The Energy of Success. Fantastic book, and I'm really enjoying actually working through that now, and it's very simple. And also your series of videos, the SET videos that are freely available. There's 5 of them in a series on YouTube, and we'll put the links in the show notes for people to go and watch those.
And they're on the other website. So you mentioned stevewells.com.au.
Yep.
And these are on EFTdownunder.com.
Yes.
So EFTdownunder.com. So EFT is the kind of the most commonly known of these techniques, and we studied that for many years, and we set up a website devoted to that. And we also have our stuff on our own simple version of that approach on that website, EFTdownunder.com.
Yeah, fantastic. So we'll put the links to both of those sites for people to go and have a look at.
Yeah.
And I've used EFT with my daughter, Sasha, when she was young. She had some anxiety about getting up and performing in school plays and singing, and well, not necessarily singing, playing her guitar and other things. So she's used it. And there's some great ways you can actually use tapping in different formats when you're in public, because a lot of tapping, as you demonstrated, it's to do with the meridian energy points and tapping in these sorts of places. So you don't necessarily want to be sitting in a board meeting doing all that sort of stuff, because, you know, people are judgmental, just human nature. But you can actually do the tapping on your fingers as well, which achieves a similar result. And you can do that under the table. Like I'm tapping now because, as we discussed, this is the first video I've done. So I'm, you know, not really overly anxious, but just a little bit. Just I want to do a good job, so I'm making sure that I'm doing the right thing. Like right now, looking, where am I going? Where am I looking? Do I look at me? Do I look at you? Do I look at the camera up the top? All funny, but it's again, it can help. Just it brings down that whole tension level.
Like the first time you hear your own voice back on an audio, you know, it's like a little bit. Oh, that's a bit strange. So yeah, this simple tapping, you know, like this is one way of doing it, just for people who are, you know, you can tap on these points on the hand like this, but we let the thumb just tap on the side of each finger, and there are points on the side of each finger which are, you know, part of energy lines that run through the body. As you mentioned, there are also points on the face and upper body, but this you can do very discreetly, like you're doing it now.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I wasn't holding my hand up here, I could be doing that on the desk while we're talking. And it's the same with these senior leaders yesterday, a number of senior leaders in this accounting group, and they're in the boardroom. Often they have to put forward a proposal or whatever, and anxiety can hold them back, you know. And I mentioned one guy that we work with, a mid-level engineering company, and he had a really strong public speaking anxiety, and we got him over that anxiety with tapping in one session, which is quite common.
Wow.
He went and did a presentation, and I gave him a bit of advice about how to structure his presentation as well and put the client first, which was pretty. But he attributes that with them getting a $29 million contract, which I reckon is a pretty good return on investment.
Absolutely. And look, so you've got stories like this, endless stories, and I've seen some of the things you've done, and you've been on TV several times, and you've helped people who have arachnophobia. Remember that lady on Channel 7 who was terrified of spiders, and there's a whole story there which we could probably go into another time. But you helped her overcome that, and there's lots of people that are really debilitated by a lot of these scenarios, or it could be ex-servicemen, or I know a lot of people in the like policemen and firemen and ambulance people. They are often very traumatic situations, and that's when things start turning bad, and they start taking drugs to help deal with it. But it's only just masking things. Where this actually gets into the core of your system and helps you break through those barriers naturally. From my layperson's view, anyway.
Oh yeah. You know, you can have someone who's had a car accident or something like that, and then they have trouble driving, or they have trouble going on the freeway, or they have trouble going over bridges or whatever it is. And the good news is with this technique, most times, you can help them in very few sessions, like 1 or 2 in many cases, to get completely over that, so they can be back out on the road and they can, they can function and they don't have to wake up with sweats and nightmares and all that kind of stuff. It's just really, it's fantastic. It's rewarding, and it's great to see people get back to life,
And the thing I find particularly great about it is, even if you have someone who is completely resistant to it and they don't think it will work, it doesn't matter. It's actually just the effect of doing the process that actually clears up the issues, not if you believe it or not. So
yeah, when we did our research, like I've done several studies out at Curtin University, and we did ours was the first randomized controlled trial of tapping, and we used it with people with phobias of small animals.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked them if they believed that this was going to help them, and not one single person believed that it would help them, and every single one of them got better.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So in terms of, this is a marketing podcast, and one of the reasons I thought we would talk about what you do is there's a lot of people who are running businesses and they have daily stresses of just running a business, paying staff, dealing with clients, bills, all the stuff that gets piled on as a business owner that can sometimes get very, very overwhelming. So in terms of advice for those types of people, what would you say is a good place to start?
Well, number one, you need techniques like this to help you deal with the stress, because otherwise you just accumulate that stress.
Yeah.
And, you can take it home, it can affect your health, all kinds of stuff. And also it affects your performance, So, and I've been through that as a small business owner. There's all the ups and downs of business and dealing with cash flow challenges, So this is kind of a continual issue for business people. But I also work with business people to get over their blocks to being able to promote themselves, their blocks to being able to be visible, their blocks to being able to market.
Yes.
So this is where it ties in with what you do. You can give them skills and techniques and strategies, but if you're blocked from being able to do that, you won't be able to embrace the strategies and move forward.
True.
I had this when I first started my business. I hated the idea of marketing. It kind of felt a little bit sleazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate that I met people through national speakers who loved marketing, who were able to help me to shift the way I feel and the way I think about marketing, so that I understand that it's more about helping people, it's more about connecting people with stuff that can help them, and all those, which it really is. But if you have those false connections, then you will tend to avoid doing it. You'll put it off. You'll find yourself wasting time on social media or whatever, and not doing social media.
I've never done that.
Procrastinate. And a lot of very micro business people, they'll do things like they'll do the housework, and people will even do the dishes rather than.
I've got the cleanest house you'll ever see. So clean, spotless. The amount of things I get done when I should be working. No, not really.
But also like, so there's marketing, there's selling, there's whatever, area you need to put yourself out there in your business. Then there's worry about the finances, which is kind of a perennial issue for most people in business.
Yeah.
If you deal with staff, oh my God, that's just another level.
Yeah.
And so dealing particularly with people's poor performance, or they're not doing what you want them to do. I did 20 years of working at the Centre for Entrepreneurship at Curtin University, presenting to business owners. And the most common thing that came up with, we have this person who's really good at the technical stuff, but they don't connect well with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most often I had to help those people to see that in a cost-benefit sense, having this person was costing them more than it was actually benefiting them, because it was draining the energy of them and everyone else in the business.
Yeah, which is a huge thing, that whole energy suck, which,
Well, this is what it's about. I think it's all about this. Like, so if you want to talk about wealth, I believe life energy is a form of wealth. In fact, it's the most important form of wealth.
Definitely.
And so if you're doing something and you're losing out on life energy, no matter what money you're getting, it's not worth it. And so I like to work with people where you go, you earn money doing what is you're aligned with, which fits with your values, in a way which is, uses your skills in the best way. And, you end up with more energy rather than less energy.
Yeah, very good point. So in terms of, I think the next steps that people can take if they listen to this and say, well, this is interesting, I'd like to give it a try. And the great thing is it's probably the easiest non-invasive way of managing anything like this I've ever dealt with. So as you say, you can do it completely discreetly, or if you're by yourself, you can do the more sort of formal format of tapping. But it's brilliant. And I get Steve's book. Go on Kindle or on his website. He'll have links for it. We'll put it up there. But on Amazon, fantastic, and probably one of the best books you'll get for helping yourself and self-performance and family members. So great stuff.
Yeah, it's a simple technique, and let's do this. Let me just run through some of the points.
Let's do it.
Because then the people who are watching can actually do this.
Absolutely. I'll do it with you.
Yeah. So they can go on the website, and there's some short videos there showing you how to do it and walking you through the steps. But if you just simply take 2 fingers of your dominant hand and you go in between your eyebrows and then go just towards one side, each side, either this side or this side, whichever feels the best, and just tap gently. And so you're tapping gently and you're stimulating an energy point on the body. And the research shows that even after a few seconds of doing this tapping, you're reducing the stress chemicals in your brain and body. Yeah, you're heading straight to the seconds.
Yeah, sorry, it's all automated. I've got like a tapping sequence.
Side of the body,
yeah,
and then under the eye, top of the cheek.
You're taking too long, Steve. Hurry up.
Hard enough to feel it, but not hard enough to hurt.
Yeah.
Under the nose, in the hollow in the midline. Under the lip, in the hollow in the midline. Just underneath the head of the collarbone. So if you go to this U in the base of your throat and there's a knobby bone on either side, just pick one of those knobby bones, just go straight.
I tell you, this is the one for me. I thought if I did nothing else other than this spot, because I seem to get a lot of tension in my chest, so I'm sure that's fairly common with probably a lot of people. Yeah. But when I hit there, it's just like I can feel the release of tension and energy.
Well, and you can see it too. You can see it lightening up and all that kind of stuff. And then the next spot is under the arm. For ladies, it's about middle of the bra band. I would say if the gents are not wearing a bra, then they should just tap level with the nipple on the side of the body.
Yeah, and the guy that said, I don't have a nipple on the side of my body.
So I said, just trace around from the one you've got and just tap it 90 degrees. Yeah. And then just after you've done a bit of that, just take a deep breath and just check how you're feeling. And those upper body points are the ones that are used by, most people. There's a couple of other points. There's another point on the top of the head, but I always feel like you should be rubbing your tummy when you do that one. But you can tap on that point as well. It's quite a good point. And then there's these points on the hand. So the first one is on the side of the thumb, on the palm side of the thumb, level with the base of the thumbnail, and you can just tap on that like this. And you can tap down the side of each finger like this too, level with the nail on the thumb side. Or you can do what we showed you before, of just letting the thumb tap down on these points. And this is a subtle, discreet way of doing it that you can take anywhere with you. And then, there's another point on the bottom of the hand. Yeah,
I find that's a good one for me too, the one on the bottom of the hand.
And also on the wrist. Like people, you've seen people with those things that are...
Yeah, for the seasickness and various motion sickness stuff,
If you just tap with the flat of your hand on that point, that works quite well. And so you can just do this subtly, and as you do it, it's bringing down the stress and tension in your body. It's actually releasing endorphins. It changes your brain waves in beneficial ways. It's doing a whole lot of really good stuff for you.
Yeah, and in your book, you talk about that there's a few different ways of doing it. You can do it so that it's an applied focus on a particular issue at the time. So say, look, I'm feeling really stressed about my finances right now. And then you can go through, hit the speaker. You can go through, microphone, I should say, go through and do your tapping on that particular issue and focus on that. But generally just doing it regardless of what you're thinking about, regardless of what your issues may be at any certain time, just doing it on a daily level. For as much as you can, and I think you recommend in the book or on one of your videos about an hour a day, but spread across. It doesn't have to be in one chunk. It can be 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Just watching television.
Yeah, if you do it for an hour a day for the next 2 weeks, and then just see how you're feeling, your overall stress level will come down, and your good confidence will come up, and you'll start thinking, wow, this stuff that used to bother me just doesn't bother me right now. You know?
Yeah.
It's a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. Again, if people want to follow more about what you do, they can read your book, they can go to your website and check it out. It will be one of the best uses of your time you can have, in my humble opinion. And there's no better man than Steve. Steve travels all over the world running workshops. He's a world authority in this. So I'll pat your back and say that, Steve. And because you are, and you know, I've been watching you for 15 years, so I've seen all the stuff you've done and the books you've written and the courses you teach. So it's awesome. So that is a good segue for courses about using what we're actually recording this on. Now, a lot of people have heard of Zoom. Some people use it. Some people love it. Some people don't. But that's just any software tool. People have opinions about how it works and whether they like it or not. But
I've not heard of anyone not liking it. So yeah. I'm surprised to hear that.
No, I wasn't specifically saying with Zoom. I've only heard good things. I may have had one person that said they preferred what's the other major one? One that's been around for a long time. I've forgotten the name of it now. The other webinar platform.
Another webinar thing that they've probably been using for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. I've forgotten the name. Anyway, I'm sure someone in the comments will say it's that one. But you use it for webinars, for training, or for training trainees and for coaches, because you do a lot of coaching training on SET and EFT, and also for the courses that you've provided where people can sign up and go through different courses and various things. So what got you onto using Zoom, and were you using different tools to record videos and workshops and things and webinars before this one?
I was, yes. I played around with a whole lot of different webinar platforms and so on.
GoToWebinar was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, GoToWebinars is one that's been around for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And I used, I can't even remember. I can't even remember all the ones that I tried out. I was happy with Click Meeting for quite a while. Webinar that you recommended back then. But once I got onto Zoom, I just didn't look back. Basically, the ease, the clarity, the seamlessness, it's almost idiot-proof.
I'm using it. It must be idiot-proof. Look, I'm sitting here clicking buttons like a professional.
Well, it's so, you know, some things you go in, you have to spend days working out how to use them. You can use Zoom from day one, right at the beginning. You know, it's basically 5 minutes and you're off, you know?
Yeah, so now I'd already pre-set up Zoom. I'd set up an account and various things. So coming from the point of you as the event organizer or the meeting organizer, when you send out a link to people to come on the meeting or the webinar, if they don't have things installed on their computer or laptop or their mobile phone, is there anything that they need to install first to actually get the meetings to work?
There's an app, but it takes like seconds. It's not one of those ones where you have to, you know, go through a long process. I've never heard of anyone taking more than 30 seconds or a minute to get this thing set up. You know, just click yes, you're downloading the app, and you're in.
And you don't even need to actually have an account with Zoom for the participants to come on. They just have to click on the link and then that quick second install, and then they're off. So they don't have to go and fill in usernames or passwords or anything like that.
Now you can set it up. I've never done this, but you can set it up, and you can have it so that they need to insert a password for that to access that. You know, when you're doing your paid program.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I'm only sending the unique link to only the people that are going to be doing the group or the program that I'm doing, I've never done that. But you've got all the box and dice of all those other things that you can set up. You can you can require them to insert the meeting number if you want to. You can require them to insert a passport or whatever. But I just think, okay, I'm only sending it to people who I know and trust who've purchased this program, and so I just give them the link.
Yeah, and you can either have a dedicated link you use, or you can set a different one up each time for each person, can't you?
I do that, yeah. Look, I actually did some coaching with a guy in the US, and he just gives everybody that same link, and then you come in at whatever time. I don't like that idea. I want to have a unique link for everything that I do for each person, so that only me and them have got that, and they're the only ones who are going to be accessed at that time.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose if someone else did get it, you would see them come in anyway. So if it was someone that wasn't supposed to be there, but if you potentially got 50 or 100 people or 200 people coming on a webinar, you don't have to be going, oh, is that person the right person? Or so.
Well, this is different. The webinar.
Yeah, webinar's one link anyway. So
yeah. So you've got the webinar program, and you've got the Zoom, which is what we're using here, which is, you know, by the way, you can get this to happen within the webinar program. You just have to assign people. You make them, oh God, I've forgotten the name now. Anyway, you make them one of the presenters rather than just being a listener and a watcher. But I use it for groups like this. So, you know, I'll have the images of the computers, you know, so there's 2 of us here. I could have 15 or 20 people on at the same time, and everybody can see each other, you know. And
the good thing is, if you're just using it for between a couple of people like we're doing now, it's free, so that, you know, you can get on and muck around and try it. And then the next level up, which is, I think, is the pro version, is like $20, $22 or something Australian a month. So
it's really cheap as chips, and you know, for a lot of the platforms that are out there, they can get really expensive.
Yeah, they can.
Zoom is eminently reasonable and highly accessible, and as you say, you can get on and you can do up to 40 minutes for free. You know.
Yeah.
So you can,
fantastic.
Lots of my people actually use it. What they do is, I train practitioners of tapping and stuff like that, and they get on separately and do work with each other, and they do it on Zoom.
Oh, I see. Okay, so they just hop on. Yeah, it's so good, and it seems very. I don't have a super fast internet connection, and often these tools are reliant on you having a decent internet connection. I'm not sure how fast your connection is at your end, but mine's about 15 megabytes a second download and about 1 megabyte upload, which is pretty sort of normal in Australia because we don't have the best of internet connections in Australia. But it seems to be running flawlessly. I haven't seen any skips.
It's, as I say, it's almost idiot-proof. I've had hundreds and hundreds of people come online over all the time we're doing it over several years. I've probably had 3 people that had problems, and it usually came down to just something that they were doing, which was, you know, an idiosyncrasy of theirs, not being able to access it. You know, even if, like, you know, I went offline in the middle of one of my groups, and I came back on 5 minutes later, they were having a great time without me. I said, oh, I've made myself redundant, you know.
Yeah, that's it. They say, wait, Steve? Who's Steve? Yeah, where's he gone?
Exactly. You know,
it seems like a really good tool, and I'd like to hear from people who are watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to it in the audio version of the podcast. Give us your ideas on what you're using and what sort of tool that you have that you.
Well, what they can't see, what we have here, we also have a chat, and it's possible to allow the chat to be recorded or not. So we could be chatting and typing stuff into the chat. So if you have people that are watching, they can be asking questions. I can do share screen with you, and I can allow you to share screen. I can record. I can allow you to record. You know, I can mute everyone who's on the call and unmute people selectively. I can allow them to unmute themselves or not. There's just so many things like that are just all built in and just really easy. And a lot of people who are using other webinar programs, they have a lot of that too. But this is just, it's dead easy. And as you say, it's so clear, and it's crystal clear for most people.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's really many overcomplications in terms of the amount of buttons there are. Look, I've got it on the split screen now, so I'm seeing you on the left and me on the right. And then there's a black framework around it, and a few buttons on the toolbar at the bottom for muting the audio, for stopping the video so it goes blank. So like if I click on it now, it's just my ugly mug there, not my actually live ugly mug. So now, see, I'm back. So or I can talk to you like this if I'm. Nothing's coming out. So
muted himself. Yeah.
For those who are listening on the MP3 audio, sorry, I muted myself. But anyway, look, people can. The great thing is, because it's the basic version is free. You can just go and sign up for an account and muck around and test it, get a friend to get on it as well, and try it out. But I say it's a very good tool, and it seems to be very good at not hogging too much of the bandwidth of your internet.
When I did it, I just tested. I contacted a mate, and I also got my daughter to come online. So there was 3 of us, because I thought I need more than just one person. And of course, she's a young person, so it was just dead easy for her. But most of my clients are baby boomers who tend to have problems with technology. Like I say, over 3 years, there would be 3 people that have had some kind of struggle at all. And, that was just something strange they were doing usually,
Yeah, so what is it you find, because you're using it for several different things, if you could only pick one thing to use it for, and you had to say, right, I can't use it for the others, but there was one thing you were going to do that you couldn't do without, what would it be?
It's group coaching. I love
group coaching. Okay.
Yeah, because see, I can run an entire. It's like running. I use it for group coaching or teaching. So even without using the webinar program, which is a bit different, I can have 10, 12 people that I'm doing a group coaching with. Everybody can see everybody just as if they're all in the room, even though they're all in different parts of the world. Yeah. They can do it from the comfort of their own home. They can connect with someone like me who they would normally have had to travel to and all that kind of stuff. And it's crystal clear. And so I can work with them, and I can do demonstrations of the techniques, and I can see them clearly, so I can see how it's coming across. It's just great.
Yeah, okay. Very true. So everyone's going to find a different application that they prefer to use it for, but go and check it out. We'll put a link. We're not affiliated with Zoom. I don't get any referrals or anything from it. So it's just a tool that we like, and we're happy to promote it. And people like Steve and tens of thousands of others use it. So nothing to lose by giving it a shot. So I think, and also it does tell you roughly, we've been talking now for 54 minutes. Is that right? Wow, that went
right. That would be from the very beginning. Probably not this portion that we've been recording.
Oh, okay. See, I'm learning something all the time. But yeah, I'm sure somewhere it will actually show me how long the recording is for. Yeah. But that's great. So thank you, Steve, for taking the time out of your hectic schedule on a.
It has been hectic. I was up in Manchester, then I came back and went away with my wife for her art, and then last week we were down in Albany. So it's good to be home. And mate, it's always a pleasure getting together with you. And yeah.
Yes. Likewise. And our favourite place we go to, for those who live in Perth, if you want to really...
Don't tell them. No, don't tell them.
Don't tell them?
Yeah.
Oh, they can't do that. That will upset people. All right. Now, if it all turns to crap after this, folks, and if you go there and ruin it because you make them too busy, which I don't think will happen. But if you want a really nice Indian and you live in Perth, in Inglewood, which is where Steve lives, there's a place called Jolly Good Indian. And it is very jolly good. I mean, it's westernized Indian. It's not like, traditional Indian. But in terms of what there is in Perth, and I've tried a lot of them, it's awesome.
If they go there, there's a good chance they'll see us both there.
There's a very good chance. One way or another, you'll either see us there or as a group having food, eating in. But I tell you, I go there. I live in Subiaco. And for those who don't live in Perth, Subiaco to Inglewood is about a 20-minute drive. So I will drive there to get takeaway and bring it back. It's that good. So,
and we have friends who live further away than you do, and they come over. They consider it their local.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome. All right, my friend. Thank you again for coming on the podcast and video cast, or whatever we want to call it. We'll have to come up with a proper name. And being the #1 person on there. So thank you for doing that. And enjoy your upcoming weekend.
Thanks, mate. Ciao for now.
Thanks very much for everyone for tuning in. Cheers. Bye.